Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa McKean, and I'm one of the middle school counselors in the district. And I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about the challenges that middle school gifted children can face. Middle school and becoming an adolescent is already such a unique time in life. And sometimes when you throw extra dynamics into play, like having being gifted, for example, that can just bring on some additional challenges. So I just wanted to talk through those, discuss what they look like, and then ways that you can help as parents at home. So for one, fitting in. This is always interesting because there's this fine line trying to find the balance between this new middle school social life and fitting in with the peers, but also kind of staying in tune with the academic side of things too. There's this, I guess you could say, like an unspoken hierarchy that in middle school students have their own idea of maybe what's considered the top. So that's often different than what maybe gifted students are going to consider the top. So whereas they might be viewing intellectual interests and striving for strong academics and emotional sensitivity and meaning of life and that sort of thing, that might look different than some of what their peers are considering to be important. And that can bring about feelings of loneliness because they're kind of, in this world, trying to learn things their own way, but still fit in with their peers. So that can be challenging. Also, there's the fear of bullying. So intellectual differences and sensitivities can sometimes be targeted by other kids, unfortunately. So if a gifted student is behind developmentally in the social aspect, then they may not be fully prepared to handle these challenges as they come up. So again, on the next slide, I will talk through some ways that you can help with that at home and help them overcome those challenges and some tactics that you can use. But there's also the sense of underachievement. So unfortunately, the enthusiasm for learning can fade over time or fade as they're, approaching adolescence. Things that can contribute to that could be social distractions, disappointment or boredom, challenging classes, or even kind of lowering their academic or intellectual standards to fit in with their peers. It's also sometimes what will happen is they are not interested so much in doing the busy work that is necessary for the grade. So while they're just really looking through things through a different lens per se. So for example, homework is required to reach a certain grade. But if it's practice homework, reviewing, skills and content to help, study for a test or something, gifted students might view that as busy work and unnecessary. And then that can, if they're not doing it because they're not seeing the meaning or the importance in it, then that can drop their grade. So helping them to look at things through that different lens and look at it more as like a life lesson of pushing through mundane tasks to learn grit and perseverance. We've all been there. I know probably a lot of us adults in our careers have mundane tasks that we don't necessarily enjoy doing, but are necessary to get the job done. So that's a way that you can empathize with them and kind of relate to them in their world. Also, there's a sense of perfectionism. So that can be very challenging for some students. Especially in middle school, a lot of kids are participating in multiple extracurricular activities. And, those can be, there can be lots of time constraints. So that can lead to feelings, feeling overwhelmed. Feeling overwhelmed and lack of time can lead to missing homework, especially if they're not seeing the importance in it. And then the missing homework can lead to anxiety because they're worried about their grades. And it can just be this, spiral and snowball effect. So perfectionism can definitely be a challenge for a middle school gifted child. Also identity formation. So all of these things that we've talked about so far all kind of contribute to this identity formation. So middle school is a time of transition. When they are approaching and entering adolescence, that is such a time to kind of explore yourself. Who am I? What do I value in life? And this is a time when the student is going to consider to embrace their giftedness or hide it. So it's really important to, help them learn how special they are and learn to embrace it. Seventh grade and sixth grade, I'm sorry, can be especially difficult because there's just this daily structure change altogether. They're going from elementary school to middle school where their entire world at school is changing. They have, they're now going from period to period and seeing different teachers. They're going to experience different teaching styles. They're going to be with different kids in each class. They're again figuring out this social hierarchy of middle school, figuring out what they want in life. And on top of that, we have hormones. So that's always fun. Some students might even try out different peer groups, and by trial and error, learn that some peer groups are great and some are not. And so that can, just lead to some of those other identity formation challenges. So going to the next slide. Let's see here. I want to talk about what parents can do to help your gifted teen at home to, get through these challenges. So one thing is just to be aware and listen. Notice changes in behavior and mood. Are they losing interest in activities or friends that they normally would be very interested in? Are there changes in sleep patterns, changes in appetite, apathy, grades, hygiene? Any of those can be red flags that something's going on. So it's really important to just make time to talk with your team. You can ask them directly. You can be very direct, very open with them. Find a good time to talk. I've found that sometimes, research has showed that sitting beside your teen can be very influential instead of making that direct eye contact, but just kind of, sitting beside them. So for example, in the car, driving and writing, or during an activity, if you're playing a game, maybe before bed, but when there's not direct eye contact where they feel really put on the spot, but more just very casual, that can help open more conversation. Also keep your emotions in check. So this is something we can feel as adults, like life can just feel very out of control for both us and our adolescents. It's really hard to see our children struggling. So if we know that they're going through any of the challenges that we just discussed on the previous slide, that's going to be really hard for us as parents to sit back and watch. And then we, of course, don't want to add more burden on top of what's already going on. So I think it's totally okay to show that you're upset, maybe frustrated, but more show like empathy also, and help them understand why, and help them, understand that your frustration or whatever might be because you see so much potential in them, and you want to help them. So with that in mind, it's also really important to withhold judgment. So jumping to conclusions or, providing unsolicited advice immediately can definitely backfire. The student or your child really needs to have some type of ownership in order to develop buy-in. So regardless if they are, rebelling against this or complying with it, they really need to kind of figure things out themselves so that they can develop those proper skills to navigate difficult social situations. Middle school is a safe place kind of to let them fall. In middle school, we are able to hold their hands a little bit and help pick them back up and learn before, in a safe environment, before we have to worry about high school credits and a cumulative GPA. So while grades are important, yes, and we want to help them learn, academically and strive to, be their best self, we also, with that, need to remember that life lessons are important too. And learning how to fail is going to, or learning what failure brings, I guess, is going to help us succeed even, learning what not to do. So middle school is a safe place for that. It's also okay to learn the hard way in middle school. Again, safe place. It's going to be more impactful to let them learn the hard way now in middle school, again, when they're not having to worry about GPA or a cumulative GPA in high school credits, than when it matters the most in high school. So we want to take care of that early so that they're set up for success come their freshman year. Before giving advice, it's really important to just encourage them to brainstorm solutions and talk together about the pros and cons. So that's a conversation that you can have together. Again, maybe, in that side by side conversation or during the activity or driving in the car, that sort of thing, but just talk with them. And definitely middle school is a time to learn independence by self-advocacy. So help teach your child advocacy, help them learn how to speak up for themselves, how to communicate their thoughts and feelings. If they're struggling, help them feel in a safe place to be able to express that and express what they're feeling challenged with. And then seek support. So this can be either for you or to help encourage your son or daughter to seek support as well. So every middle school is going to have school counselor. We are great resources to come and talk to, whether you're looking for guidance or maybe a student needs some help on, figuring out how to communicate something to a teacher or ask for help. There's lots of ways that we can help. Also, there's also counseling and therapy. So this can be a great resource if, your student just needs to help sort out their thoughts. I saw a great visual once. I don't unfortunately have it to display on the screen, but it was a graphic of somebody sitting with a jumbled ball of yarn. And then across from them, they were talking to the therapist, and the therapist was just taking the ball of yarn that was all, jumbled and scrambled in a tangled mess and wrapping it back up into the actual ball, and kind of almost in a sense of organizing their thoughts and helping them make sense of their thoughts. So those are just some of the ways that we can all work together to help gifted teens be successful and get through middle school. So please let me know if you have any questions at all. And thank you for joining us.